that is your right as a human being to have good quality sleep every night. And it is also the right of your children to learn and develop good sleep skills.
Hey guys, since you're tuning into this episode of Mom Talks with Krista. So one of the main questions or topics I see in the group is about sleep, having, issues with their baby staying asleep, or as their toddler gets a little bit older, having issues, sleeping in their own room. So today we have on a sleep expert, sleep consultant, Dana Obleman, and she has helped over 100,000 parents help their baby get better sleep. So I'm so excited to have her on here. She is the owner of Sleep Sense. So she's gonna be talking all about her different programs and addressing different issues that we see all the time. So without further ado, here is my interview with Dana Obleman. Hi everyone, thanks for joining me today. My name's Chris and I'm from Mommy Knows Best. I'm so excited we have Dana here from Sleep Sense, and we're gonna ask all your questions about sleep. It's a very common question when it comes to newborns and sleep and so on. So welcome, Dana.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. So just to get started, can you just tell us a little bit about you and then what you do?
Yeah, well, my name is Dana, and this journey for me started, almost 19 years ago now, when I had my first son and knew nothing about his sleep needs and realized quite quickly that this baby was not going to start sleeping through the night without some assistance. So I think we hit about the 5-month mark when I started to realize that maybe there was something that I actually needed to do to teach this little person how to sleep more than a couple of hours every night. So that really led me down the road into researching how to create great sleep habits in babies, what are the sleep needs for the different age groups. And within a few weeks, I had a baby who went from being up all night and not napping to sleeping great during the day and sleeping through the night. And I was just so excited by this. I really couldn't help myself. I was running out and telling everybody I could get my hands on about this great news that you could actually teach a baby to sleep well. And which led me to the idea of creating the Sleep Sense program. And at first, I started coaching parents one-to-one in my community. And then after a couple of years of doing that, turned my knowledge into the Sleep Sense program, which is now a bestseller on the internet.
That's amazing. And I'm sure so many moms are listening like, oh my gosh, I want to know, what is the secret? How can I learn? So I'm just so grateful and glad you're here, that they can hear of you and hear of all the courses and everything you offer as well. So that's really exciting. So you've helped, over 100,000 moms help their children sleep better. So that's amazing in itself. So what are some of the most common problems that you see parents having with sleep in their children?
Well, I think that the crux of the issue is that if a child doesn't learn what we call independent sleep skills, so that means if they're always relying on being rocked to sleep or fed to sleep or cuddled or held to sleep, then when they have naturally occurring wake-ups somewhere in the night, which is normal, we all have those, then they won't really have the skill set to return to sleep without all the assistance that got them to sleep in the first place. So that's why you have, babies and toddlers still waking up multiple times a night, looking for a recreation of all the things that got them to sleep in the first place. So you're going in to lay with them, or you're bringing them to bed with you, or you're nursing, much longer than you'd hoped, and so on. Because it's not really about those things. It's about the strategies for sleep. So we all are very habitual and protective about our sleep strategies. So if we decide this is the way I get to sleep, we're not very motivated to give those things up without a little coaching and direction from parents. So that's why parents start to seek out some assistance, because I think they get to a place where they're thinking, well, I don't know if this is going to just ever wean itself out, or this child's not going to grow out of these habits. How can I help? How can I create? How can I help guide them down the right path to learning how to sleep well and independently?
And so I'm sure, like, depending on the baby's age, where they live, that kind of thing, there's all kinds of questions and things you need to find out first. So when someone comes to you with a sleep issue or trying to address a problem, what kind of questions do you ask first that you need to get in order to kind of move forward with the process?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's going to depend what age the child is. That's the first question we always ask is how old is this baby? Because obviously the expectations we would have for a newborn baby are going to look very different than the expectations we have for a 10-month-old baby. So that is huge. That's a very, very important question to ask. And then, I also like to know how does this baby fall asleep? That's a question I ask on repeat is, tell me about the experience of this baby falling asleep at bedtime. What stage needs to be set in order for this baby to fall asleep? And that's where I'll hear what the sleep prop is. And that's what sleep experts call it. We call it a sleep prop, which means that it's something external that this baby uses as its vehicle into sleep. So whether it's on the bottle or the breast or rocking, there's a variety of different ways in which a baby can reach their destination. But if they're always relying on that help from the external prop, then that's why you're going to have repeated nighttime wake up.
Very interesting. Yeah, that's great to know. And so at what point do you think it's a good time for a parent to consult with a sleep consultant? Is there certain time, or do you think most parents should at least look into it? When's that appropriate time, you think?
Well, my dream would be that everybody, while they're pregnant, started educating themselves about the sleep needs of newborns, because I had my first son and I knew nothing, right? And he slept very poorly until I fixed it. But I had two other children after I knew much more. And the experience with those babies was completely different than the experience I had with my first son, because I knew more. When you know more, you do better, right? So if you could, just that education piece of what I should be looking for, what I should be watching for, what I should be cautious about happening, how do I minimize the prop dependency becoming a thing. Both my second and third baby were sleeping 10 hours by 10 weeks. So it is possible to start out on the right road with a baby if you know what you should be doing. So that would be my dream. But I know that that's not always the case, because often you're not going to solve a problem you don't know you have yet, right? So a lot of people wait. But I think when you should start to reach out for help realistically is when you start to feel the effects. We know that even a few nights of sleep deprivation has huge impact on us as adults. So if you've experienced months or even years of fragmented sleep, then your relationships are suffering, your productivity at work is suffering, your health is suffering. It just is across the board. Sleep touches everything. So, if you're starting to feel the negative effects of not sleeping well, then it's time to actually really get some help and start making sleep a priority for your family.
So I kind of want to go into a little bit more specific questions that we do see in the group a lot. And of course, anyone that has more specific questions can come and check out your courses and everything you offer, because I understand there's only so much you can answer, generally. But what do you do for babies that, fall asleep really easily? They go down for a nap easily, but they tend to wake up a lot or don't really stay asleep for long periods of time. What can that be, or what are some tips for having babies sleep longer?
I get asked that question a lot too, but it's all, and I do sound like a broken record. I get it. But I always say, let's look at how this baby fell asleep in the first place. That's where it all starts. So if the answer is, well, I rock her to sleep and then I put her down, or I nurse her to sleep and I put her down, or any scenario in which you're doing a lot of helping to get this baby to go down, then the chances are really high that they're only going to sleep for one sleep cycle. And one sleep cycle for an infant is about 30 to 45 minutes. So I'll often hear from moms like, this baby won't sleep longer than 30 minutes, or she won't sleep longer than 45 minutes. And that is because she was rocked to sleep, let's say, and she slept for her cycle, came to the end of her sleep cycle and had a little brief awakening and realized you're no longer holding her, you're no longer rocking her. And so she doesn't have the skill set to figure out how to get back to sleep into another cycle without all of that assistance. So they usually wake up pretty agitated. Like they wake up pretty mad. They're often crying quite loudly at this point because they're still tired, right? That was not a long enough nap. And they don't know what to do to get back into sleep. So the good news is that if you start to teach a baby how to fall asleep with some independent skills, right? So that they fall asleep in the same place they wake up at the end of a cycle, they know how to get, back into sleep, then those 30 to 45-minute naps will fade away and you'll get more consolidated daytime sleep and you'll get longer and longer stretches through the night.
Oh, wow. Okay. Awesome. Yeah, that's really good to know. And I mean, it makes a lot of sense too. Like how you put a baby to sleep in the beginning is kind of how they start to learn. So what are your best sleep tips? So you were saying, in an ideal world, moms would come to you or a sleep consultant, when they're pregnant to kind of start preparing. Mm-hmm. But so let's say just for some tips now, what are some best tips to getting newborns started off on the right foot?
Well, that's a great question. And there are some things you can do. So my favorite tip for parents of newborns, 45 minutes of time awake. So if they've been up and had a feed and a little bit of playtime, and you're looking at your watch thinking, okay, it's been about 45 minutes that this baby's been awake. It's time to sleep again. So that means either put them down in the bassinet or wear them in a baby carrier or whatever you need to do to get this little person to sleep at that 45-minute mark is going to save you a lot of hassle later in the day. Because what happens then, if they don't get enough sleep earlier in the day, then they hit this like really fussy period around that 5 o'clock hour. A lot of people call it the witching hour with newborns, where they just like are inconsolable and hard to settle. So if we can keep a nice rhythm going through the day of basically being awake for 45 minutes, down for a nap for, an hour, hour and a half, up for a feed, awake for 45 minutes, back down again, and so on throughout the whole course of the day, then we're keeping this newborn rested and not overtired, which is really a newborn baby's worst enemy. So that's tip number one. And then another tip I like to share is that if on occasion you can put this baby down before she's asleep. So I think as new parents, we think it's our job. Like I have to do all the things to get this baby to fall asleep. But if you can try, especially earlier in the day, that tends to be the best chance of success. If you look at your clock and see that it's been 45 minutes that she's awake, try putting her down while she is still awake. So take her to her bassinet, get her nice and comfy and cozy in there, turn the lights off, and see what happens. And at least some of the time, she's just going to drift off peacefully on her own without any intervention from you. It might not always work, and that's okay with newborns. But the more exposure she has to getting herself to sleep in certain situations, then the faster the pieces are going to fall into place. And the faster she's going to start consolidating her nights and sleeping longer through her naps. It really is, it can be for a lot of parents, that's all it takes. Then they become independent, wonderful sleepers, given time and growth and all that good stuff that leads to eventually sleeping through the night.
When it comes to, a little bit older, like, let's say almost like into toddler years, maybe a year old, do you find a lot of the same, like if they learn sleep habits, good sleep habits in their newborn early months, does that tend to carry on, or should new sleep habits be instilled when they reach that older age?
No, I always say that teaching your baby to sleep well is the gift that keeps on giving, because it tends to grow and carry on with them through their childhood. Now, there's always I always warn people though that in the toddler years, there's usually a little bit of regression just because toddlers are exploring their autonomy and testing the waters and seeing, what can I get away with and what can't I get away with? And a lot of parents kind of stumble through those toddler years and can lose the sleep road a little bit, especially when they move the toddler from a crib to a bed. That's where a lot of challenges and game playing can start to show up. But if you've got that skill set from infancy where you know this child's capable, that consistency is the key, and you've got a really good routine in place and strategies for dealing with any little regressions that pop up along the way, you should sail through it with relative ease.
Awesome. I love that. The gift that keeps on giving. Because
It is.
Yeah, start early. I'm sure you get a lot of moms that come to you and they're almost like at their wits' end. Like they have tried everything, they've done the research. So for moms listening that are kind of at their wits' end right now, what advice do you have for them in this kind of crazy moment?
I wish that that wasn't the case, but a lot of times you have to hit rock bottom around everything, right? Before you're motivated to make the change that needs to occur to solve the problem, you do kind of have to hit that rock bottom moment. And so I guess my advice would be, don't let it be multiple rock bottom moments, right? As soon as you hit that rock bottom, know that there are things that you can do. Know that there is light at the end of this tunnel. This is not something that you have to endure just because you decided to become a parent. This is not the cross you have to bear because you're a parent now. Sleep deprivation is not something you need to martyr for the rest of this child's life. There are solutions and there is a path, and maybe there's lots of ways in which you can accomplish this. So find the one that makes sense to you and solve it. I mean, sure, it takes a little work to solve any kind of problem, takes a little bit of commitment, but it's worth it, right? It's worth it to see, I always think it's within a blink of an eye, really, in the big picture of life. This might take, we always say by the end of the first week, you should have had at least one night where this baby slept all the way through. So 1 week of work is a blink of an eye, really, when you think about the lifespan of this child.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that kind of is the perfect segue into talking about Sleep Sense, your program and everything you offer. So can you tell us a little bit more about what Sleep Sense is and what programs you offer for moms and families?
Mm-hmm. So, like I said, I believe that the journey into good sleep habits can start at birth. So we do have a newborn section that I actually wrote while I was going through it with my third child, and teaching everybody how I was doing it with her and getting you down the right road. So if you've got a newborn, I mean, obviously it's very gentle and we're still including night feedings, and there's no sleep training going on with a newborn, but there are things we can be looking for and watching out for and encouraging. So that's the first package. And then we go all the way up into preschool, school age children, because I'm finding, especially in the last 5 years or so, we're seeing more and more parents coming forward to say, I still have a 5-year-old that won't sleep in her own bed, or a 10-year-old, even a 12-year-old that's still struggling to find that independence when it comes to sleep. So we really work with a wide variety of ages, and it's never too late. A lot of parents think, oh, well, she's 4 now, like it's too late now. We're just going to have to live with this. And you don't have to live with it. It is a skill that can be taught. It takes a little bit longer with the toddler and up age group. You might be looking at more like 2 or 3 weeks before you really see consistency showing up night after night. But again, it's worth it because this is something that will grow with her through the rest of her life. So we have different age groups. My favorite program to buy would be the gold package, where I do a 14-day coaching program. So every morning you get a new coaching video from me that walks you through what's going to happen today, what could be happening in the night, kind of sets you up for success every day through those 14 days to see you through to great success. So that's really my favorite. And then we have a network of sleep consultants all over the globe. So it doesn't matter where you live in this world. We have a sleep sense consultant that can help you. So those are the people that do it one-on-one with you. So they customize a plan that's specifically just for your baby, and then they support you with that one-on-one support through the entire journey.
Wow, that's awesome. Because yeah, I think there's so many, like you were saying, like just conflicting information out there too. And
Yes.
people will go to Google first and try to see what, their friends are doing or what's going on. And so I think having that, one-on-one or expert to come in and, kind of coach them through, I think is amazing.
Yeah, that it is a tough time to be a parent because, you can Google anything and get 25 different answers to the exact same question. And so it does leave parents feeling really confused, especially around sleep and what's the best approach. But, I always say the bottom line is what is your goal for your family? Like, what do you want to see happening? Do you want everyone to be happy and healthy and coping and doing well? And if sleep deprivation is a root cause for your unhappiness as a family, not just for you individually, but for everybody in this family, then that's worth investigating. That's worth finding a solution to, because it is a fixable problem.
Awesome. Yeah. And just hearing that hope will help a lot of moms too, knowing that there is something out there that can help them. And I like that you say too that it's never too late, because, I've heard of, people not having sleep issues until, a little bit later, and kind of wondering if it's too late, toddlers not wanting to sleep in their own room.
Right.
So there's definitely all those different stages as well. So it's good to know that it's never too late and they can get help at any stage.
That's right. And to also remember that, like, once something becomes a habit, it's really hard to break, right? So if your child is falling into a habit of coming to your bed at 3 o'clock in the morning, the longer you let that ride, the harder that habit's going to be to fix or change. So it's better to kind of nip these things in the bud as they show up so that they don't become, a reoccurring theme month after month.
And normally when you hear of like toddler or young child like coming into the room multiple times in the night, is that something that usually starts when they're younger, in their sleep habits, or can it just kind of happen out of nowhere, or is it just kind of different reasons?
Yeah, I would say typically what we see is that if we've got an infant that doesn't develop strong independent sleep skills, then they become a toddler with weak sleep skills, become a preschooler with weak sleep skills, and so on. So it can grow with the child if they don't actually learn those skills. But every now and then we have clients that come to us with, this baby slept great, right, until we had another baby or transitioned from the crib to the bed or hit that, tricky toddler phase where they were testing boundaries. So people can lose the road for sure. It's a little bit easier if the child once had good sleep habits and they just kind of lost the road a little bit and we can get them back on track. It's a little bit more tricky if they never had them at all in their life and we have to teach it. But again, still worth doing and never too late.
Awesome. I love that. So I always like to end these interviews with fun thinking questions, as I like to call them. So if you could have a billboard made today where you could share one tip with moms everywhere, what would you have it say?
Oh, that is such a good question. I have a variety. I would have a whole panel of billboards, but I would say my number one message to parents is that insufficient sleep or not sleeping well is not a badge of honor you have to wear because you decided to become a parent. It's not something you need to martyr yourself with, that, this is what you signed up for. It is not what you signed up for. Sleep is a necessity, and without it, we all falter. So putting aside your guilt, letting go of any selfish feelings about wanting to sleep, and just know that that is your right as a human being to have good quality sleep every night. And it is also the right of your children to learn and develop good sleep skills that will help them live their best lives as well. So that's really my main goal. My second billboard beside it would be, it's not your job to put this child to sleep. Sleep is a skill set that needs to be learned by every human. So letting go of this idea that it's your job to do it, it's not actually your job.
I love that. I think that's great. Because I think, so many times we hear like, you're giving up sleep, you're not going to get sleep, and,
Right.
I think moms need to be able to put themselves a little bit first in some aspects and, self-care and get sleep. Because like you said, it is so important and helps you function and have cognitive function for the next day. And yeah,
I mean, I'm not saying that in the newborn phase, like that's logical and makes sense. Everybody's on board for that, right? But these are people I'm seeing, month after month after year even, and that's going out of the realm of what we could expect or should be expecting. That's a fixable problem.
Absolutely. And this is kind of similar to the question earlier, but what advice would you give moms that are listening that are just kind of in a hard spot right now, whether it's in regards to sleep or something else with parenting?
Yeah. I think it's a really tricky time because, we're so connected online and through mommy groups and Facebook and all these places we can reach out. But I think that a lot of times I see moms reaching out and getting backlash, right? Like getting negative feedback from other moms saying, well, you shouldn't be wanting this, or you're selfish for feeling this way. And, that breaks my heart because that's not helpful. And it's hard enough being a mom as it is without getting, criticized every turn. And so I would say, look to your tribe, look for your people that get you and really understand you, and use them as your support system. And just be cautious and careful about where you go online for your support, and find places that feel safe, where you can say what you need to say and be supported in that, and not attacked or not made to feel badly about any experience you're having, because whatever experience you're having is your experience, and that's valid.
Yeah, 100%. That's so true. We always try saying that too, like in our group, that like, for someone to post a question or ask something, they're being vulnerable. And so to then come at them, it's just, it doesn't help any situation.
It does not.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. We all need to help each other. So
yes, I agree.
Yeah. Well, awesome. And so again, for anyone listening, where can everyone find you on Instagram? Where can they find your courses and all your resources?
Yeah, so if you want to check out the program, it's at sleepsense.net. You can find me on Instagram under SleepSense, and you can reach out, and I'm happy to point you in the right direction if you have any questions for me.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on. It was so great meeting you. And yeah, moms listening, if you have any questions about sleep, definitely go check out Dana at SleepSense. I've seen your page. You have so much information and interviews that you do as well. So check it out, guys.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me.
Hey guys, if you found this or any episode of Mom Talks with Krista helpful, please like, comment, subscribe, and of course, share it with your friends. We release new videos every single Wednesday, and our new podcast is out every single Thursday. So lots of different ways you can catch us. And of course, if you're not following us on our socials, go ahead and follow us there. We've got tons of new content for you every single day. And finally, if you're watching this and doubting yourself, you're doing a great job. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next week.